What's up, guys? I'm Jacob with DGL, and we have another great video for you today. Starting off, we have the top waiver wire pickups at the QB position. My top pickup this week is Jameis Winston. He grinded out a big win for the Browns this past week and put up decent stats in the process. There were really bad conditions this week for the Browns and Winston, and he's still got incredible passing volume, and you can expect that moving forward. Winston can put up big games against tough opponents, and I think his volume makes him rosterable moving forward. Next, I have Drake May. Even in a game in which he struggled against Miami last week, he managed to put up decent fantasy stats. May gets a good matchup versus the Colts this week and could bounce back with a very strong performance. And finally, I have Derek Carr. He's been playing solid ball, and the Saints have been rolling in their last two games. They're coming off a bye, and if you need an injury fill in or you have a guy on a bye this week, Carr could be a good guy to add.
It's week 13. We're coming down to the nitty gritty at the end of the fantasy season. Are you hurting for some wide receivers? I got you covered. First up on the Carolina Panthers, Adam Thielen. He's fresh off the IR, ladies and gentlemen, and he had 3 catches on 4 targets for 57 yards. He's good to have. We don't know how well he's going to continue to produce on that, quite frankly, a pretty bad offense. Although they haven't looked too bad as of the last few games, but we'll continue to see what kind of target share he brings in over the next few games now that he is back in action. We're also looking at Nick Westbrook-Akine of the Tennessee Titans. He's had 6 TDs in his last 7 games, and in his last 5 games, he's been 85% of snaps on the field, and he's had more than 10 yards per catch over that 5-game stretch. Listen, I know the TDs might not be sustainable, but he's getting the snaps. He's getting the yards per catch. He's somebody to stash on your team just in case. And also, we're looking at Noah Brown of the Washington Commanders and Devon Vele of the Denver Broncos. Both of these guys have solidified themselves as a wide receiver 2 on their teams, and they are both widely available, especially if you're in like some PPR leagues or some deeper 12, 14-man leagues. These are definitely guys you want to have on your squad.
Here are your running backs to add off the waiver wire. First off, we have Jalen Warren, Pittsburgh Steelers. I can't believe he's still available out there. He is coming off his best game of the season, and look for him to stay in that 10 to 15 touch range. Next, we have Gus Edwards of the LA Chargers. If Dobbins' injury is serious, he is a must start. Plus, since he's been coming back from the injury, he's been averaging at least 10 touches a game. Finally, Roshan Johnson of the Chicago Bears. He's just a lottery ticket, but if you have bye week issues or injury issues, he has started to become the Bears goal line back, so he can probably vulture you a touchdown.
Here are some tight ends to pick up in fantasy football in Week 13. First up, I like adding Noah Gray of the Kansas City Chiefs. Gray has shown a nose for the goal line in the past 2 weeks, scoring 4 touchdowns during that span. He's had at least 4 targets in the past 2 games, and I like him as a red zone threat and bye week fill-in moving forward. Next up, I'm recommending Zach Ertz for the second consecutive week. Ertz has been one of the Commanders' more consistent receiving options and has found the end zone in back-to-back weeks. I think he can sustain his success moving forward. And finally, I like adding Luke Schoonmaker of the Dallas Cowboys. Schoonmaker has found success over the past 2 weeks with Jake Ferguson missing time. And if Ferguson can't get back onto the field next week, then expect Schoonmaker to continue to break out in his expanded role in the Cowboys offense.
Here are a couple players that are fantasy football fool's gold, so don't fall for it. First, Nick Chubb, running back of the Cleveland Browns. He's averaging under 3 yards a carry, and he's just lacking that explosiveness that he had before. He's very touchdown dependent. Next, we have Caleb Williams, quarterback of the Chicago Bears. We've seen these flashes before where he looks good, but then he comes crashing down to earth. It is his rookie season. The next 4 games are against top 10 defenses against quarterbacks and the pass. Finally, Keenan Allen, wide receiver, Chicago Bears. Only 2 games this season has he been above 6 points. Caleb Williams, as we said, the inconsistently. And finally, the Bears just keep juggling who their top pass catcher is. And Caleb is doing a decent job of spreading the ball around.
Fantasy football debate. Your team is stacked. Injuries and buys are forcing your hand this week. Do you drop a player and pick somebody up to fill a starting roster spot, or do you let it fly without the starting roster spot? Because if you lose, you'll still remain top three. Well, in my opinion, you have to drop somebody and play a full starting roster. I argued that when the whole defense thing came about. Do you sit your defense if you're up a couple points just to get the win? Listen, you have to fill a full roster. Most leagues' fines are too low for not filling out roster spots, and as a manager, you are supposed to manage through the injuries and the bye. Listen, this matchup doesn't just affect you and the person you're playing, it affects the whole league. You'd be pretty angry if somebody else wasn't starting a full roster spot and it was affecting your playoff position.
Jordan, I like a lot of what you said, but I simply can't get behind cutting your studs, even if it means being forced to lose a game in fantasy football. And that's because fantasy football is mainly a game about making the playoffs. Variance is so high in fantasy that your only real goal as a fantasy football manager is to make it into the playoffs with a team that can score the most possible points between weeks 15 and 17. So I'm never a proponent of cutting players of value, as injuries stack up throughout the football season, and you may need one of those guys to carry you across the finish line.
Excuse me, sir. Would you like another hot take?
Yeah, definitely. Keep them coming.
All right, here are your hot takes. First up, the Dallas Cowboys. All right, it looks like you actually showed something, which is impressive, except you guys should be tanking. You guys should be trying to get a top 10 draft pick, especially with your salary cap situation. But what do the Cowboys do? You win. And you're going to end up with a pick around 15, which is a huge mistake. So even when the Cowboys find a way to win, they still lose. Next, the Packers. Jordan Love has a little bit too much Brett Favre in him, and it's actually made me miss Aaron Rodgers and how good he was at protecting the football and not throwing interceptions. Finally, St. John's, even though we lost to Baylor, we gave it away. It's looking like we should be a March Madness team and hopefully get our first win since 2001.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with some hot takes from the NFL. Now, listen, I know we talk a lot of NFL, we talk a lot of fantasy football, but I mean, hey, this is what most of us are here for, right? The NFL, it brings America together. I know the NBA has been rocking and rolling, but we're all here for NFL. Mostly. Some of you guys are here for the poker. Some of you guys are here for the added minutes. Woo. Anyways, the Texans, 2-4 in their last 6 games. They will make a run to the AFC Championship game. Listen, they began the season 5-1, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that they can go on a run in their last 5 games here to end the season. Should they win next week, which they should against Jacksonville, that'll put them on the right track. But I say they should win against Jacksonville, even though I think they should have just beat the Tennessee Titans this past week, which obviously they lost that one. But they do get to play the Tennessee Titans one more time this season, so that hopefully they can right the ship and catch the dub there. I do see them winning their division, and they will host a playoff game. So things bode well in the first round for them. It's going to be about getting past some tricky opponents in the second round of the AFC, because the AFC is pretty stacked. However, I think Joe Mixon, he'll get it going, and the Houston Texans will be in the AFC Championship game.
Nice takes, Jordan. My hot take for the week is that divisions are stupid in fantasy football. I really hate the concepts of divisions in fantasy football, which have become very popular in sleeper dynasty leagues. These leagues often can reward a team who gets lucky to be in a division with rebuilding teams who are tanking, and it punishes teams that should make the playoffs in tough divisions. Don't get me started on tanking, but I really don't think it's fair to kind of change the whole concept of fantasy football where we used to always just have all the teams in one division and the top teams make it. Now you add divisions where the top team makes it from each division, and you get some wild cards. And I really don't think we need to overcomplicate a great game that is fantasy football. Just let the best teams make the playoffs.
My hot take for the week is that I think that Bucky Irving is a running back one for the rest of the season. The Bucks have utilized three running backs throughout the year, but Irving separated himself over the past few weeks. If the Bucks coaching staff can figure out what we as fans can all see, that Irving is clearly the Bucks' best running back, then Irving provides huge upside moving forward.
Soccer hooligans.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Adam Minutes. Last time we had the Adam Minutes, we were talking about how Pep Guardiola had lost 4 games in a row for the first time in his managerial career, and the international break could not come soon enough for City and Pep to reset, regroup, and start getting on the winning track again. Well, guess what? The streak continues. They are on a 5-game skid. Obviously, this has never happened to Pep before, but they ran into prime 2011 Barcelona. That can't be right. Wait. It says here they lost to Tottenham? They lost 4-0 to Tottenham over the weekend? That's the 5th loss. I mean, I guess that's not too bad considering Tottenham has been banging in the goals. They do have 5 losses, but all 5 of those losses were by 1 goal, and they do have the second best goal differential in the Premier League. So, on paper, it's not too bad. But the rest of the losses in this 5-game skid, pretty bad. Are City in trouble? I mean, we got the January transfer window coming up. Could they pick somebody up mid-season that's going to help right the ship? Or is this just something going on with Pep's tactics? Or is just luck, I guess you could say, or anti-luck in Man City's case? I mean, what can they do to challenge Poole? Poole's running away with this. I mean, they are 8 points up, and hey, things aren't all great for Liverpool either. Speaking of transfers, I mean, Mo Salah, he might not even be on the team at the end of the season. Well, he'll be on the team at the end of the season, but not next season is what I should have said. Mo Salah does not have an offer from Liverpool, and he has expressed his disappointment. He's been being asked about this a lot lately, and this past weekend he finally said, "I'm probably more out than in." He said, "It's almost December, he has not had an offer yet, and he is extremely disappointed." Where do you guys see Mo Salah playing next year? Is it back at Liverpool? Are they finally going to offer him something? There's been rumors of him going to the Saudi League, and could he go to another Premier League team? Does he try his luck in La Liga, Bundesliga, Ligue 1? Let us know in the comments where you guys think Mo Salah is going next season. Have a good week, guys.
The Guardians and Cubs recently completed an interesting trade. The Guardians gave up Eli Morgan for the Cubs' high A prospect Alfonso Rosario. Rosario is an interesting prospect with plus power who has struggled with his chase rate in the minor leagues. If the Guardians can develop his patience at the dish, then they just got a heck of a player. Morgan is an accomplished reliever who is more of a long reliever than a high leverage guy. Morgan utilizes an unconventional delivery to make his average stuff more effective. I like the trade for both teams as the Cubs acquire a guy who will be a major league player right now, and the Guardians receive a prospect with high upside. And the Mets also traded for Jose Siri. Siri has hit 43 home runs over the past 2 seasons, so he gives the Mets some pop, and they only have to give up an average reliever in Eric Horsey. It won't move the needle for either team's World Series potential, but I like the move, especially for the Mets.
Here are a few fancy basketball players for you to add this week. First, Andrew Wiggins. He is on the Golden State Warriors. He gives you small forward and power forward position. He's available in 40% of leagues. In the last 2 weeks, he's been player 33. All right, overall, he's been a very good player. Now, he gives you 2.1 3-pointers made a game, 19.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.1 steal, and a block. A little bit of everything that you love. Next, we have Ayo Dosunmu on the Chicago Bulls. I probably butchered his name. He's available in 80% of leagues, all right? He's been player 94 the last 2 weeks. He gives you 1.3 3-pointers made, 11.9 points. He gives you 2.6 points, 4.6 assists, and a steal. And best of all, he gives you that position flexibility we love, where you can plug him in at guard and forward. So hopefully this helps you get a couple wins this week. Okay, thank you so much for watching to the end. If you haven't yet, please take a moment, hit that like, comment, subscribe. And if you do not know yet, on Saturdays we are dropping our start sits for the week. So check that out to make sure that you're watching, seeing the players you should be starting and sitting for fantasy football. And at 11 a.m. Central Time, we go live to kind of give you the best updates of what's going on for fantasy football. So check that out. We have our store. Go there, get some DGL merch, and have a great week.